Welcome to AC 24/7. I'm Aaron Dean. Two states are actively preparing for a surge of migrants from Mexico ahead of Title 42's end. In El Paso, Texas, new immigration enforcement has kicked off, while in New York, some leaders are railing against New York City's mayor's plan to house arriving migrants in suburban hotels. Laura Aguirre has the latest developments.
Migrants arriving at the U.S.-Mexican border near El Paso Tuesday, waiting for Title 42 to expire, in the hopes that if they get into the U.S. then, it'll be easier to stay while seeking asylum.
We expect to see somewhere in the neighborhood of about 10 to 15,000. We're going to open up 2 schools. We have the convention center prepared, and the Red Cross has come to assist us.
But on El Paso streets in pre-dawn hours, federal agents were kicking off a targeted enforcement operation, handing migrants flyers, encouraging them to turn themselves in to U.S. Customs and Border Protection so they could be processed and put on, quote, the correct immigration path. Several told CNN they feared deportation if they did so. Texas has been busing migrants by the thousands to places like Denver, Chicago, and New York City, where Mayor Eric Adams' new plan to house some migrants at suburban hotels in neighboring counties is catching heated backlash.
My social services is already maxed out with our homeless shelters full, so we're very concerned about who these individuals are, how long they're going to stay, and who's going to take care of them.
I would think if the mayor is going to come up with a ridiculous plan like this, which is not viable and not workable, he should have picked up a phone and contacted us and truly coordinate this.
I'm Laura Aguirre reporting.
Well, a new poll finds Americans aren't confident in its leaders when it comes to the economy. According to a new Gallup survey, nearly half of Americans have almost no confidence in President Joe Biden's ability to do or recommend the right thing for the economy. Just 35% of people have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in him. Federal Reserve Chair Jerome Powell doesn't fare any better. Only 36% of Americans have confidence in him on the economy, with 28% saying that they have almost no confidence. And when it comes to Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen, just 37% have a great deal or fair amount of confidence in her. This comes as the U.S. heads towards a looming debt ceiling crisis, in addition to 2 years of high inflation. If Congress doesn't act fast, the U.S. could default on its debt as soon as early June. That's from 2 new analyses which back up Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen's forecast issued. The weaker than expected tax season has increased the odds that the Treasury won't have enough funds to pay the federal government's bills in early June. The U.S. hit its $31 trillion debt ceiling in January. Since then, the department has been using cash and extraordinary measures to avoid default. House Republicans and President Joe Biden have just a few weeks to hammer out a deal, or the government could default for the first time, triggering an economic meltdown. And new economic data points to wages finally beating inflation as employers both add jobs and increase paychecks. The latest data from the Labor Department shows workers' paychecks grew in April by 16 cents to an average of $33.36 an hour. That's the biggest monthly increase since March of 2022. A recent survey from the National Federation of Independent Business found 53% of small businesses reported few or no qualified applicants for the positions that they're trying to fill. According to that report, construction, transportation, and wholesale jobs are the hardest to fill right now. Meanwhile, employees in the leisure and hospitality sector, including bars, restaurants, and hotels, are also seeing strong wage gains. Economists say many service workers have been reluctant to return to the industry as it works to bounce back from pandemic losses and recession fears. Investigators are revealing more about the mass shooter who allegedly killed 8 people at a Texas outlet mall. We're now learning the suspect appears to have had a profile on a Russian social media site. As the investigation unfolds, we're also learning more about the victims, including a couple and their 3-year-old son.
He always loved riding his little Segway around, and it was so fun to see him speed by and then stop in.
Christian LaCour was a well-liked security guard at the outlets.
He was just the kind of person who would walk into the store and everyone in the room would light up because he was there.
The 20-year-old is just one of the victims gunned down at the outlet mall in Allen, Texas.
May he rest in peace, and sending so much love to him and his family.
The shooting devastated 2 entire families, who both lost multiple loved ones. One of them is the Cho family. The family of 4 was visiting the mall, but only 6-year-old William survived the shooting. His parents, Kyu Song Cho and Shin Young Kang, and his 3-year-old brother James were all killed. William remains in the hospital and was just removed from the ICU. And 2 young sisters were killed in the shooting. 4th grader Daniela Mendoza and 2nd grader Sofia Mendoza. Their mother remains hospitalized in critical condition. Also killed was Ashwarya Tatikonda, an engineer who was just days away from turning 28, and Elio Kumana Rivas. In total, 8 people dead, 3 of them children, and at least 7 others wounded after yet another mass shooting in America.
Even though they may still be alive, they are forever changed, and generally speaking, not for the positive.
Joshua Barnwell, a Navy combat veteran, was at the mall shopping that day when the shooting began. Trained in emergency care, he helped tend to the victims.
I want people to really and truly understand the depths of the depravity that occurred, because it was a disastrous situation.
A law enforcement source familiar with the investigation tells CNN that the shooter served in the U.S. military for 3 months. He did not complete basic training and was removed because of mental health concerns. Texas Governor Greg Abbott is urging patience in the wait of answers.
I believe in the coming days, the public will be much better informed about why and how this happened.
The Washington Post reports the federal government is funding a study to determine whether overdose prevention centers work. It's the first of its kind in the U.S. The study will follow drug users in New York City and Rhode Island to determine if those individuals are less likely to overdose. There are only a few facilities in the U.S. where people can use illegal drugs under staff supervision. The staff members are trained in reversing overdoses. The study will last 4 years and cost nearly $6 million. The goal is to help communities decide whether to set up overdose prevention centers. Some object to the centers, saying that they enable drug use and crime. Okay. Check this out. A woman was rescued after being spotted by a police helicopter after 5 days in the wilderness. Australian authorities said that the 48-year-old made a wrong turn down a dead road, getting her stuck in the mud while trying to turn around. Well, the Advocate Channel's Adam Haggerty has her remarkable story.
A mother's embrace Lillian Epp thought she'd never feel again. For good reason. 5 days lost, cold and alone in the Alpine high country. This, her rescue, her moment of euphoria.
I was thinking, oh my God. First thing that came in mind was thinking, water and a cigarette. Thank God the policewomen, they have a cigarette.
The 48-year-old's sense of humour and life intact, safe and home in Cheltenham. Out here, her stranded hatchback was her shelter. No food, no water, no phone reception, and no logical way out of terrain similar to this. The closest town, a 60-kilometre walk away.
And I thought that I was going to die there. My whole body shut down on Friday.
Found on Friday, lost last Sunday. Holidaying in Bright and en route to Lake Dartmouth, Lillian realised a hill was too steep. After a U-turn, her car got bogged. She waited for help with nothing but blankets, a fruit box and a gift bottle of wine. Her only hydration, and Lillian's reunited bliss.
Thank you for not giving up on me.
Adam Haggerty, 9 News.
Well, that's all, and thank you so much for joining us for AC 24/7. For more, go to theadvocatechannel.com and subscribe on our Advocate Channel YouTube page. For AC 24/7, I'm Aaron Dean.